I still remember the smell, lemon cleaner, and blood. I walked into my home expecting dinner and the laughter of my children. Instead, I found silence, and my wife's body, sprawled across the kitchen floor. One stab, straight to the chest. No sign of struggle, no sign of forced entry. Just her, gone. That moment, it split my life in two. Before, when I believed I had a happy family, a faithful wife, a normal life, and after, when I discovered just how wrong I'd been. My name is Miguel Rodriguez, and if you told me back then that I'd be at the center of a murder case, I would have laughed. I was a simple man, foreman at a construction company. I worked long hours to give my wife, Elena, and our two kids a decent life. We weren't rich, but we had each other, or so I thought. Elena was loved by everyone. She had this warm energy, always the first to bring cookies to a neighbor, the first to volunteer at school. People called her the perfect wife, and I believed it. But perfect lives don't end in murder scenes. I still hear my own voice on the 911 call, broken, confused. Please, she's not moving. There's blood. So much blood. The police came. The neighbors watched. Reporters circled like vultures. And me? I just stood there, trying to understand how everything could fall apart in a single afternoon. I kept asking myself, who would do this to her? Was it random? A break-in gone wrong? Or was it someone we knew? At that point, I didn't know what was worse, her death, or the secrets that were about to be dragged into the light. Because as the detectives started digging, they uncovered something no one saw coming, not even me. A secret affair, a betrayal closer than I ever imagined, and a man I thought I could trust, who had been hiding more than just a guilty conscience. You think you know the people you love. You think you know what goes on behind closed doors. But the truth? Sometimes, the monster is already inside your house. I'm not sure what hurt more, losing the woman I had loved for over a decade, or sitting in a cold interrogation room under a flickering light, being asked if I had anything to do with her murder. You were the one who found her, correct? Were there problems in your marriage? Did you argue recently? The questions came fast, one after another. Their eyes studied my every move, every breath. And there I was, grief-stricken, shaking, trying to hold myself together long enough to answer. I told them the truth, that I had been working all day, from early morning until nearly 5 p.m., that Elena and I had grown a bit distant lately, but nothing serious, that I had no idea who could have done something so horrific to her. They checked my alibi, called my boss, talked to my coworkers. Thankfully, they all confirmed it. I was at the site all day. I thought that would be it, that I'd be allowed to mourn in peace. But I was wrong. The police weren't done. They started digging deeper. Then one of them came to me, with a voice low and cautious, like he already knew it would break me. Mr. Rodriguez, did you know your wife had been exchanging messages with someone using a fake name? I froze. I said no. He didn't say much else, just nodded and left the room. That was the moment something shifted inside me. For the first time in our marriage, I began to wonder, what was Elena hiding from me? Who was she talking to? And why would she keep it from me? The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I'd watch our children sleep and wonder how I would ever tell them that their mother wasn't coming back. But the worst was still to come. The name behind the messages? The man Elena had been secretly talking to for nearly a year? It wasn't some stranger. It wasn't a coworker. It was David Cortez, my cousin-in-law, the husband of Elena's closest family member, Victoria, a man I had welcomed into my home, trusted with my family, and that was just the beginning of everything falling apart. When they told me the name, I didn't believe it. David Cortez? Number that couldn't be. He was married to Victoria, Elena's cousin, practically her sister. We'd spent holidays together, birthdays, family dinners. Our kids played together in the backyard. I trusted him. He was family. But the evidence, it didn't lie. The The text messages weren't just flirtatious. They were explicit, passionate. They spoke of meetings, of longing, of fear, of hiding. I sat there, reading words my wife had written to another man. A man who had looked me in the eyes while betraying me behind my back. And I felt something twist inside me. Rage, confusion, shame. How long had it been going on? The detectives told me. Almost a year. A year. While I was working double shifts, trying to build a better life for my family, she was building a secret life with him. With him. I wasn't angry yet. Not really. I was numb. And then came the interviews. They brought David in again. This time the tone had changed. They had proof. The messages, the timeline, his fake alibi. At first he denied it. Called it harmless fun. Just texting, nothing serious. But under pressure, he cracked. He admitted to the affair. Said it was a fling. Claimed it ended weeks before Elena died. Said he still loved Victoria. That he never meant for any of this to happen. But it had happened. He'd crossed a line that destroyed 2 families. And now Elena was dead. Victoria. She didn't even know yet. But that would soon change. When they brought her in, she was shaking. I was told she broke down the moment she heard his name. She'd suspected something, but never imagined her own cousin. That's the thing about betrayal. It never comes from strangers. I watched everything unravel like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. The man I trusted had slept with my wife. The woman I loved had kept a secret that got her killed. At that point, no one could prove he murdered her. But deep down, I already knew. People don't just end up dead in their own kitchens by coincidence. Not when a year-long affair explodes in guilt and desperation. The truth was coming. And when it did, it would be bloodier than I ever imagined. April 3rd, 2008. I remember it so clearly because it was the last time I ever saw my wife alive. I kissed her on the forehead that morning. She made me coffee like she always did. Nothing felt off. Nothing felt unusual. I left for work around 6:45 a.m. She said, "Be safe." I never thought that would be the last thing she ever said to me. While I was laying bricks under the spring sun, she was making plans. Not with me, but with him. The detectives told me what they pieced together from the investigation. Texts, timeline, surveillance. David told Victoria he had a meeting. Elena dropped the kids at school and waited. She cleaned the house, put on makeup, changed the sheets. She was preparing for him. Around noon, David pulled into our driveway. He walked into my home, and they embraced like this was routine, like this was normal. But something was different that day. Something cracked. During their time together, in the heat of passion, Elena moaned my name, and that moment shattered everything. David pulled back. Elena realized what she'd said, what she was doing, the guilt. It came flooding in. She started to cry, started saying she couldn't do this anymore, that she still loved me, that it had to end. David didn't take it well. According to the investigators, they argued, voices raised. Elena told him she was going to tell Victoria everything, that she was done lying, done sneaking. She wanted to come clean. David panicked, and in a flash, he grabbed a knife from the kitchen. 1 second of rage, one blind moment of fury. That's all it took. One stab, straight to the chest. She collapsed. He didn't call for help. He didn't check her pulse. He didn't cry. He ran, left her there in a pool of blood, alone, in the same kitchen where we used to dance barefoot on Sunday mornings, where she used to pack the kids' lunches, where she used to hum while stirring coffee. That's where I found her. By the time I walked through the door, everything I loved was already gone. And David? He thought he could lie, say it wasn't him, say it was just a coincidence. But the truth was already leaking through the cracks. And soon, the evidence would bury him. After the funeral, I couldn't even grieve. Not really, not with detectives in and out of my house, not with reporters parked outside, not with my children asking why the neighbors were whispering. But beneath the grief, beneath the rage, something else grew in me, a need for truth. I wanted justice. And slowly, Piece by piece, it began to come together. It started with a surveillance tape. A camera from a corner store 2 blocks away had picked up David's car. On the day of the murder, at the exact window of time he claimed he was in a business meeting. That meeting? Turns out, it was never scheduled. He'd lied to Victoria, lied to the police. Then came the fingerprint. Detectives found it on the back door of my house. David said it must have been from some previous visit, but I knew better. David never used the back door, and certainly not without me or Elena there. The timeline, the texts, the fingerprint, the camera. It all pointed in one direction. On April 15th, 2008, he was arrested, taken into custody, charged with second-degree murder. I remember the day I saw him in handcuffs, the man who'd betrayed me, ruined my marriage, stolen my children's mother, and now he just stared at the ground. The trial began on May 5th. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors, reporters, friends. Everyone wanted to know, how could something like this happen in a place like ours? The prosecution laid out the case with surgical precision. The affair, the messages, the surveillance, the forensic evidence. Every detail painted David not just as a cheater, but as a killer. His defense? Weak. He claimed someone else could have done it, that the messages were emotional, not physical, that maybe he'd visited the house recently and forgot. No one believed him. Then came the hardest day of my life, again. I had to testify, had to look the jury in the eyes and tell them what it was like. Finding my wife in a pool of blood, watching my kids cry every night, learning that the man I once trusted had destroyed us from the inside. And then, Victoria took the stand. Her voice cracked as she spoke. She talked about the lies, the way her husband changed, the late-night calls, the distance, and finally, the moment she realized the betrayal ran deeper than she ever imagined. The courtroom was silent. When the verdict came in, we all held our breath. Guilty, second-degree murder, 25 years in prison, possibility of parole after 15. Some people said it wasn't enough. Maybe they're right. But at least now, I could breathe, just a little. After the verdict, people thought it was over. But the courtroom is only where the case ends. Not the grief, not the questions, not the silence that crawls into your home when everything you built's gone. David went to prison, 25 years. He never looked at me when they took him away. Victoria filed for divorce a few weeks later. She packed up, left Nashville, took the kids, said she needed to start over somewhere no one knew her name. I don't blame her. The gossip, the whispers, the sideways glances at church. They didn't stop, not even after the trial. Me, I stayed. I still live in the same house, the same kitchen. The floor's been replaced, but I still remember where the blood had pooled. Every morning, I drink coffee alone at the same table where Elena once smiled. Every night, I check on our kids, make sure they're breathing, safe, warm, and I ask myself a question that has no answer. Could I have stopped this? If I had come home earlier? If I had paid more attention? If I had told her I loved her more often? Would she still be alive? Maybe that's the cruelest part of grief. It leaves you replaying the past in slow motion, editing every scene in your head, trying to find the one moment that could have changed the ending. People ask if I forgive her. I don't know. Some days I remember the good. The woman who held my hand in the delivery room, who kissed my forehead when I was sick, who made our little house feel like a home. Other days, I remember the betrayal, the lies, the knife, and I wonder, who was she really? As for David, I hope prison gives him time to think about what he destroyed, about the 2 families he shattered, about the woman he said he loved and left bleeding on the kitchen floor. This story didn't end with a gunshot or a car chase. It ended with silence, a moment of weakness, a lie that turned into obsession, and now that silence follows us all. My kids still ask about their mother. I tell them the truth, but not all of it. Someday they'll be old enough to know the full story, and when they are, I'll be ready, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with the only thing that matters now, the truth.